Hi, my name is Carol Coolio, and I write the Blackwell and Watson time travel mysteries. They are traditional police procedurals with a time travel twist and a seemingly impossible romance between a Depression-era cop and a 21st century journalist. I'm on the fourth book. RSVP to Murder is a Christmas mystery. It's a different kind of a twist on the classic English country house mysteries. I had been retired from teaching for about 5 years, and I wanted a mental challenge, and I always loved mysteries, and I had this idea, and so I thought, let's just do it. So it took me about 5 years to get published, which is actually ahead of the game, and then I switched publishers for the second book, and I'm with them now for the whole series, which is 7 books. Going to be 7. I'm involved in a lot of mystery-related things. I co-chair a mystery conference. It's called Murderous March, and I belong to a group called Sleuths and Sidekicks, and we have a website, and we have book clubs online with famous writers. And I'd like to eventually write a middle grade mystery. And 3 more books in this series.
My published name is Leanne James, and I've written 3 books. The 4th one is in the works. The first one takes place in late 1800s in England. The next 3 are actually part of a series. It's all about mystery and crime. The first book that came out in the series is actually an award winner, so I'm proud of that. I've gotten a few good accolades on that, and I'm hoping to follow through on the next books. I've always been a reader and finally decided to put some of my thoughts down into a book, and just kind of went from there. I thought if I could read, maybe I can write. I'd love to make this a retirement job. I don't know if I can, but I'd love to do that.
Hi, my name is Melissa Marshall, and I actually am a children's book author and illustrator. I work with young children every day, and I read many books to kids, and then based on our daily events, we would see things, and I would make up stories. They would love them. So I started making up characters. I drew the pictures for the kids on the bus. I work on school buses. And the stories were so liked by the kids on the bus that I shared them with others, and that's how the characters came to be, the Pigeon Family series. And then it all started with a box of crayons. This is a true story about a little girl that loved art, reading, writing, took her crayons everywhere, and grew up to be a children's author and illustrator. She believed in herself, and she made it happen. And yeah, that little girl was me. I just want to keep making children happy, just making them smile, believe in themselves, and sharing and being kind. I want kids to know that if they're kind and believe in themselves, that you make friends along the way, and if you try really hard, almost anything is possible.
Heather DiAgostino. I used to just write for fun, and a couple people that had read some of my pieces that I posted on WhatsApp had asked me if I published, and just decided to go for it. And 10 years later, here I am. I'd like to get into a bookstore eventually. I've just been plugging along now. Writing is still a career goal, but I've done other things to help support it, because starving artist is a true phrase. And I travel mainly on the East Coast, but up and down from as far north as Maine all the way down to, I've been as far out as Texas to sign. And I skip around, but mainly stay in the romance genre, but skip around in the subgenres. But eventually I'd like to be somewhere like Barnes & Noble or Books A Million. I will say that music inspires me. Typically I'll hear a song and the lyrics will just hit in a way that a book will start forming an idea, and it just goes from there. And I learned to. I'm not a plotter. I'm a pantser. So sometimes whatever I start thinking is going to happen, it's completely different by the end of the book. And a character that I hated in the beginning will turn into a favorite. It's just, you got to go with it.
I'm Ava Sicardi, and I have 2 books out, Always Julia and Honestly Julia, part of a trilogy I'm writing. I published last year, my first book. I used to write when I was younger, and I teach art, and I noticed how people, to older adults, I noticed how people at our age, just when they wanted to do something, they really were able to achieve their goals. And I always wanted to write a novel, and I took a writing course at Oasis with Linda Lohan, and I started writing again, and all of a sudden I couldn't stop. And there you go. And I wanted to write a novel for older women, and so that's what I've been doing. It's about a woman in her late 50s, early 60s, and some of her adventures in life, I guess you call it. I'd like to get a publisher. I've been self-publishing, and so I'm working on that. And I'm working on the 3rd book. Once I finish that, the trilogy, my goal is to try to lean a little bit more towards literary fiction. I've been writing what they call women's fiction now. And that's it, just to keep writing. Just keep writing, not stop, not give up.
I'm Becca Kurtz, and I've wanted to be a writer since I was really little, and didn't really pursue it when it came to like college and stuff, but was always excited about it in school. And then I became a mom and told myself that at some point I'd just go back to school and learn more about writing, and then I would do it. And I realized I was holding myself back. So I just decided one day to start writing a story that I had in my head. And I had tried to write a different story like 10 years before, and I kept all the notebooks that I had scribbled in, and it wasn't very good, but it had little tiny kernels that I could pull from. And so I pulled some of those together and wrote this. I wrote the first draft in like a month, and then kind of fast-tracked being able to go through it, and was really proud of myself for just following through on something that I had been holding myself back from. This book is about a girl who, when she's born on the summer solstice, and a fairy visits her and grants her the elemental gift of fire for being born in summer. And she has to grow to have ownership of that power, because initially it's really hard for her to control, and she has to find the beauty and the strength in it instead of the destructive force that fire usually has. Right now I'm working on a 2nd book. It's in the 2nd draft phase. And I'm really excited about it because I wrote the first draft this past spring, and everyone that I had like beta read it and give me feedback was really excited for it, and it was just the first draft. So I'm like, if that was just the first draft, then who knows how the finished product's going to be, because I want to make this a 4-book series, a book for each element and for each season, so they have them matching up for each one.
My name is Christopher Del Garcio. My book is called An Unsettled Score. It is a collection of 20 speculative fiction stories. Speculative fiction is kind of a combination of science fiction, fantasy, horror, and all the subgenres included with those. Well, the book, as I said, is 20 short stories. They range pretty greatly in length. There are some novellas in there that goes all the way down to a couple, 2 or 3 flash fiction pieces. So you're talking about 1,000 or less words there. It's varied in its styles. There is a little bit of poetry in there. Most of it, the majority of it, is prose though, but there are a few poems sprinkled in. And it's very different in the subject matter. As I said, speculative fiction covers a lot of different terms and genres. So there's a little bit of science fiction, pretty much traditional science fiction in there. There is some urban fantasy. There is some higher fantasy. There is 2 or 3 stories in there that are pretty straight at least hybrid versions of horror stories. So it kind of runs the gamut. I think when I first started, my biggest goal as an author was just to complete a story, and eventually that you just kind of had little stepping stones from completing a story to getting stories published, which I was able to do. And then I don't know that publishing a book was ever one of my goals, just because for an author of short fiction, you don't really put together books. You publish short pieces in magazines and journals and podcasts and things of that nature, e-zines. So putting them all together into one book was never anything I really even dared to dream about. So I'm really happy to be able to collect all of these together in one piece in one place.
Hi, I'm Alexis Pierce. I wrote Everyday Joy. It's a 90-day journal to help find more joy. I've always loved writing, but honestly, I started this because I was in a really dark place and I couldn't remember how to feel happy every single day. And I was driving to work, years ago I was driving to work and I thought, isn't Tuesday my life too? So I didn't want to just wait for Friday or wait for Saturday or wait for vacation or wait for retirement to be happy. So I created a process to make myself feel more alive every day, and that's where this came from. So yeah, it's a labor of love. I wrote it 11 years ago, and I was working for the U.S. government. It was an amazing time of my life, but it felt like I wasn't connected to myself in some way. And since doing this process, I originally wrote it in like a day planner next to my bed. And since doing this process, I left the government, I moved around the world, I now write books and coach people for a living. I'm a life coach now. So the process has been really powerful, and it's amazing to get to connect with people who are also going through it, people who either do the journal themselves or join me in a 30-day process, and see just how much more room there is for joy in our lives, because we tend to live like way below our potential, especially for happiness, because happiness can be scary. So when we get to open up, there's just so much more fun and beauty in the world, and I think that's really changed my view, because I used to just see problems, and we're critical thinkers and we're taught to be analytical and find problems, but there's a lot of good stuff to find too.
And I have two books here. They're both local history books, nonfiction. The first one is Arcadia Publications' History of the Onondaga County Sheriff Department, and that is the largest collection of historical images ever made public. That was published in 2015, and it's a history of the Sheriff Department, which was formed in 1794. My most recent book is Ganantaha, which was the Iroquois name for Onondaga Lake, and it's about the mission that was established there by the French Jesuits in 1656. And it's about the episode of contact between the European and the Native American, the Iroquois, who called themselves the Haudenosaunee. And the book talks about that episode. It talks about all the events that led to the mission embassy being established in Onondaga Lake. It reviews what previous historians have done, and it's the most recent historical research on that particular episode. It's basically to get stories being told. I am a nonfiction writer, so I really believe in nonfiction, and history is so intriguing that often history, as you know, is twisted a little bit by myth and about folklore and things, and that's what makes it kind of exciting at the same time. There's things behind folklore, a little bit of truth and a little bit of fiction, which makes writing a lot of fun when you start reading that type of thing. But I think this story in particular is such an exciting adventure story that it really abases any work of fiction. You don't need any fiction at all. When the mission was established in 1656, it was very important to the French as an embassy. They had the most important men of all New France in the colony were at this mission. Francis Lemercier was a the mission superior for all the missions in the New World. Zachary Dupuis was the commandant of Quebec, who left that post to guard this post. We have the Bouvin brothers, who were the most experienced and talented housewrights in the New World, established this mission on Onondaga Lake. So it was a pretty exciting episode.
Hi, my name is Deb Riley, and my pen name is D.B. Jagel, and my book is The Mystery in the Old Book, and I love Nancy Drew. I'm an older Nancy Drew, and so is my heroine. It's a time travel, historical fiction based in central New York, and it deals with women's rights issues, mental asylums. It's the kind of book I want to read, so that's what I wrote. I've always been a writer since I was a little girl. I taught English for many years, and now I'm a nurse, so I would like to continue the series. It's a Nina Durbin series, so that's my main character, Nina Durbin, and I just want to have fun, writing more historical fiction, more time travel, detective, things that I want to read, and hopefully, just continue that part-time in retirement. So Nina Durbin is a 60-year-old retired teacher who's trying to find her new purpose in life since her life has changed, and she finds a message in an old book, Cry for Help, and she ends up researching it with her friends Beth and Jerry, very much like Nancy Drew, and she goes back in time to the 1800s in central New York, and she ends up finding a group of women that need help, and there's a bunch of twists and turns along the way. Back in the 1800s, women were often committed to insane asylums by their husbands, and there were terrible treatments called rescuers, and so Nina Durbin gets involved with all this and trying to help these women.
Hi, so I go with Apple, and this is my pen name. So my real name is Ping. I'm a professor at Syracuse University. So I have been here for 29 years. So I got the original idea of writing about my life. So this is basically a memoir. It was because my children, they were born American. We call them American-born Chinese. And they were asking me questions all the time. Hey, Mom, how was your life like when you were in China, when you were childhood? Did you like this? Did you wear that? What is like when you just came to the US? So I figured, just like we sometimes have questions for our parents and wish our parents left something for us about their history, upbringing, and all that, I wanted to write that for them, for my children. And I was taking license from downtown DWC, the writing center, and I realized that this creative writing is very different from academic writing, which I have done a ton of those. But I wanted to write good so my children can be proud of me when they read my stuff. And then during these workshops and classes, we would share our writing pieces with each other. And my writing buddies would say, hey, you should let other people to read this besides your parents, your family and your friends, because we are interested in these stories. And then more and more I started to realize we all have our stories in our lives, but we hardly share those with others. And then if we all share our lives, our stories, our backgrounds, we would understand each other much better. And I realized that a lot of people don't understand immigrants, don't understand Chinese to a much broader sense. They probably remember one or two cases or one or two times when things happen. But everybody's story could tell a lot more than that. So my writing objective became educating others, not just my children or my family members, but let other people know what it's like, when I was growing up, when I was young, when I was in China, and what it's like when somebody like me who came to the US at 26, which is grown up, facing challenges, cultural challenges, a lot of other challenges. So I started to write this book, which is about the first 8 months when I came to the US from China, and the time was 1989. It was a very critical moment that happened both in China and globally speaking. So I wanted this book to be the opening of my creative writing career, if we call that. So that's the reason I call it Las Cruces, because the story happened in Las Cruces, New Mexico, and the English name of that place is called Las Cruces. But this also representing cross Pacific Ocean, cross cultures, cross even time zones because I reflect back when I was in China when I was little, and also cross personal discomfort zone because you come to a new place, you feel like fish out of the water ball, and it just a lot of challenges. But I don't want to write it in a bitter tone. I want to write in a light-hearted, humorous tone. So that's basically what this book, trying to deliver. So far, I got really good reactions, and I'm hoping more people will be interested in reading it.
My mom has that one. My name is Susan P. Lindsley, and I am author of Well Almost and Maya's Journey Home, and that is what we are displaying today. And it's through streetmatespublishing.com. The book was based on my daughter doing something that gave me inspiration for the story, and then I had a friend who is an awesome artist, and I asked her if she wanted to illustrate it, and we finally have it come to fruition now. I'm a teacher, so I've read thousands of children's books, and sometimes I'd have my friends' kids would do something, and I would say, that'd be a cute book. That'd be a cute book. And then sometimes I'd come up with a title that would be a good for a title for a story too, so a lot of times that's where it comes from. Almost is about a girl who thinks she can do stuff, so a lot of parents can relate to it, where the child thinks they can pour the gallon of milk or hold the soup and not spill it. And so this is the girl who thinks she can do everything, so one part of it is what it is in her mind, perfect, and then the next page is well almost and what it really looks like. And then she finds out after everyone gets mad at her that perfection is overrated. And so her mom tells her that her hugs are the best, and then toward the end there's a little twist at the end of the book for the well almost.
This is the most authors that we have ever had here, so it is growing. We're hoping to make this the biggest authors event of the fall in the area. That's our goal. So thank you everybody for joining us.
Thank you for coordinating. Your work is appreciated.
It's a joy. It really is. It's a lot of fun. In 2018, I was standing right here, and we had just gotten finished with a signing. And I thought, this is so much fun to do this with more authors than just to sit at a table by yourself. Why don't we make this a thing? And Patricia was standing right next to me, as luck would have it, lightning struck, and she said, you know what, that's a great idea, let's do it. And then the Wandering Wordsmiths was born in 2018 right here, so this is our 5th year doing this as a local authors collective in all genres. I invite you guys all to join it. You can come to me after or at any point during the signing, and we'll get you signed up. We have a Facebook group, there's about 24 of us, and we organize signings all around the area and do it all year long. It's a lot of fun. So we hope you guys will join us for that. Nancy or Jackie, I'm going to turn it over to you so you can talk about some of the flyers that you had up here on the table before we start the panel.
Okay. Hi, I'm Jackie Owens. I'm the Adult Services Librarian here at Baldwinsville. And we just wanted to point out a few things if you're interested in writing. We have activities for the library activities. So you can grab this letter and you take a look at that. We also have a writing group that is mainly online. We're talking about getting an in-person group, but mainly online. Got a little bit of information here. And coming up next week, we're doing National Novel Writing Month. And if you've not heard about that before, it is the challenge to write 50,000 words in 30 days. Now, it sounds awful, I know. It's 1,600 words, 1,666 words a day. And it's doable because we have a lot of online and coffee shop write-ins, places where you could go with other writers. Believe me, if you've got a writer with you that's writing with you, we're the biggest procrastinators. This helps a lot. So that's what we have here, and we're also going to have a panel discussion here. So come on down.
All right. John Anderson, Patricia Antone, Carol Pulio, and Ava Zaccardi, would you please join us at the front for the panel?
Back to me. So I'm going to introduce you all, and then you guys can speak about what scares you most about writing. Boo. All right. First we have John Anderson, who writes historical works. John Anderson's background has served him well as a historical author. He has served as a historic site manager in the Onondaga County Parks Department Office of Museums and Historic Sites, a board member for the Onondaga Historical Association, a board member and president of the Friends of Historic Onondaga Lake. John is a retired Onondaga County Sheriff's Officer. He's written dozens of articles and several books on local history. His current book, Kanataha?
Good.
Hey, I got
Perfect.
that right. Woo-hoo. Was released in April 2023. We have Patricia Antone on the end. Patricia writes romance. After an old box of creative writing was unearthed, Patricia's husband sent her to a class on self-publishing, telling her to try something new. With the nest empty, there was a lot of newfound time for an idea. The instructor, a romance novelist herself, then introduced Patricia to a local writers group. While there have been muse firings and the chewing out of characters who hijack scenes, or the whole book, she still manages to wrangle that happily ever after. You can find her on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or visit her online at patriciaantone.wixsite.com for the latest news. Next we have Carol Pulio, who writes mystery. Carol holds a BA in French and Spanish and an MA in French. She has taught French, Spanish, German, and English. She also owned and operated a translating agency for 20 years in upstate New York. Carol's work has appeared in Victoria Magazine, and she is the author of the Blackwell and Watson Time Travel Mystery Series. Find her at carolpulio.com. And finally, we have Ava Zaccardi. Ava writes women's fiction. Ava Zaccardi is a native of New York City and was raised on Long Island. She studied creative writing at SUNY Binghamton. In addition to writing, she is a landscape painter and an art educator. Ava currently lives in Phoenix, New York with her husband, surrounded by the beauty of nature and the warmth of her family and friends. Visit her on Facebook or at avazaccardi.com. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Please let me not drop the mic. Okay, everyone, what scares you most about writing? We'll start from left to right.
Okay. That's me. Do I need a mic?
I don't know, do you?
I don't know. You can hear me okay? And writing is a scary thing. In my research for Kanataha, I found that the adults, Haudenosaunee or Iroquois, were so fearful of the writing of the Frenchmen and the Jesuits that they wouldn't tell them their names, out of fear that they would write down their names and procure some type of misfortune in this magic that they had. So the Jesuits had to learn a way to go around that and learn the names of the people, and they went to the children to learn the names of the people around the village. So even to the Iroquois, writing was a very fearful thing. For me as a writer, it's the void. It's that void between the writer and the reader, between the messenger and the receiver. According to the experts coming out of the University of Pennsylvania, they say that only 7% of effective communication is what is actually said or written. 48% of effective human communication is actually body language, and 45% is tone as an expression. So writers have the challenge of trying to bridge that gap, not having the body language, tone, and expression. We have to use our ingenuity, our imagination, punctuation, illustrations to be able to do that. But for me as a writer, it's that void, that missing component of human communication that we lack. And that makes it, I think, a real challenge for all of us as writers to be able to find that bridge, to bridge that gap between the messenger and the receiver, the writer and the reader.
Wow, I don't want to follow that.
I was gonna say, can I get up now?
Carol can make things up as easy as I can.
Wait a minute. I'm
Are we stuck?
on you.
We've got a lot more there.
I think it's not.
There we go.
Oh, okay.
I'll drive. You're good.
After 35 years of teaching, I don't know if I actually need this. Do I? No, I don't think so. I have a long, a bit of an explanation before I'm actually going to answer the question. Sort of a lead-in, so you know what I mean. When I started writing, I had been retired for 5 years, so I was already 60, 61, something like that, and. Originally, my important critic was myself. I did this as a personal challenge. I have this story in my head. Can I write a book? I mean, I wasn't an English major. I never took any writing courses. but I've spent my life reading mysteries, I mean, devouring them, right? So it was a personal challenge. So my, the goal was to write something that when I was finished, I could pick it up and say, yeah, I like that. I would have picked this up off the library shelf. So once I did that, I thought, well, why not go the next step? See if I can get it published, see if anybody else likes it, right? I figured my mother would like it, you know, my best friends would like it, but what about anybody else? So I managed to do that, and they did. And I write what's considered a cross genre. They're time travel mysteries with a tiny hint of romance. So they're traditional police procedurals. They've got a little bit of time travel woven into each book. Some books have more than the others. And then there's that will they or won't they between my character in 1934 and my character in 2014. So was there an audience for this kind of a thing? I looked around and I didn't really see anything that was quite the same. So I was thrilled and completely found that, you know, unexpectedly so, that there is an audience. And over these past 3 books, and now the 4th one came out last month, I found a growing audience for this. I'm finding a lot of people, it resonates with them. They enjoy it for whatever reason. So the answer to the question for me is, will the next plot, my idea for the next book in the series, will I go too far in one way or another and it'll fall flat and people won't like it anymore? So I think the scariest thing for me is not having anybody want to read my book.
I know I need a microphone, even though I've taught for a long time. Well, the scariest thing for me, it's a little different, is that when I first was ready to publish, I was afraid I was going to embarrass my family. And it's not because I don't have any reason. About 20 years ago, I don't know if you all remember that TV show, the local show, Freaky Flicks and Food. It was my cousin, Tim Mahar, was the host, and they'd have these late night movies on Saturday night, and then they'd have this improv section, and different people would be in the improv. Well, I played this crazy woman on the improv. I was like a hillbilly kind of person with a corn cob pipe, a blonde wig, and all this stuff, and I talked like that and all this, and it was just, it was just fun. So that was maybe it was Saturday. My children are at Liverpool High School and they go to school, and the track coach says to my daughter, "I saw your mother on TV." And she said, "That wasn't my mother." My son, the same thing. A couple other friends, they run up to, "I saw your mother on TV." They denied I was their mother. They were so embarrassed by me. So now I'm getting ready to publish this book, and they're all professionals now in Baldwinsville and the city and stuff. And my husband has a business. I mean, I was just so worried about it that that's how I decided to get a pen name. So I selected a pen name, and it still took me, the book was ready. It took me 8 months to push that button on Amazon to say publish, because I was just really worried that I was going to embarrass them. Turns out they're not embarrassed about me anymore. They're very proud of me, but it scarred me. I mean, can you imagine? Anyway, that's my fear. It's still my fear every time I'm getting ready, is that, they're gonna, I don't know, but that's me. I'm gonna embarrass my grandchildren now.
So I can relate to that fear. I have 2 adult male children. I work in a very male-dominated industry,
and yet here I am writing romance novels. I don't know if you can see the covers behind me full of half-naked men. So I told my husband when I first started, if I go belly up on this, I don't want anyone to know. He goes, well, okay, well, let's pick a pen name. So Patricia Antone actually nods to my children, Patrick and Antonia. So we kind of kept it in the family. And my kids very much appreciated it because when the first book came out with, again, said half-naked man on the cover, they're like, we don't know her, don't have any clue who you are. Please don't share that to our pages. But as it started to progress and the train started to move, they were like, wow, our mom wrote wait, you're on book 5? Oh, wow, Mom, you're really taking this seriously. And I'm like, guys, I'm not going this way for sports. I have a lot of time on my hands. You're grown men now. You've left home. You don't need me. But when I first started, one of my biggest fears, aside from embarrassing myself, never mind the rest of the family, was anybody going to actually read this stuff? I kind of wrote what I like to read. I'm a huge book hoarder. I have 5 feet of bookcases in my office, probably 2,000-3,000 books. We won't discuss what's on the e-reader. I have 3 or 4 apps in there just for that alone. But I wanted my characters to be relatable. I want you to open the book, to read it, and believe you are a part of the story and be, I want to hear you laugh, I want to hear that you cried. I never was so proud as when one of my beta readers contacted me. I hate you. I've never cried so hard in my life when I finished this book. And I'm like, yes! Yes! And I have a guy at work who beta reads for me, and he'll give me books back, and the best one was he wrote, I don't like this scene, it doesn't work for me, and his wife wrote underneath it, he's a man, don't listen to him. And I'm like, oh God. So I get more points of view that way. But when I first started this, I'm very introverted, I'm very quiet, I'm very shy. I was inside my tiny little box, and I very slowly cut the side off and started venturing out. And by venturing out, I discovered this incredible world. This room full of people are like my tribe. And as I joked on Bridge Street a couple years back, I found my tribe, and y'all are gonna have to kick me out if you wanna get rid of me. So I still feel fear every time I release a book. It's not gonna be what someone wants to read, but I hold my breath, and like you said, click, and hope for the best. What's that? Okay. All right, again, I just want to thank everybody for coming. Being a writer is a lonely and sometimes terrifying profession. The readers are what make it worthwhile. We are so excited that you love our books. Our favorite thing is to hear, I stayed up all night reading your book. I hate you, you killed off a character I love. I love you, the characters that I love are happy. So thank you so much for making it all worthwhile for us. Thank you. All right, feel free to get up and mingle.